Samuel Bilton and I am the Director of Gen Z and Millennial Outreach here at Family First. I host the show Built on Truth and I'm also the host of the new show Counterculture. I love being part of Family First because it's an amazing team that loves New Zealand and loves families, that's championing families here in New Zealand. It's a vital message and New Zealand needs it now more than ever. That message of strong, healthy families building a strong, healthy nation is vital to the next generation as they try to find their identity and find who they are in this wider world.
Thanks, Samuel. Samuel's a new kid on the block, and I can only call him a kid because he's probably about half my age, but it is great to have young people on our screens, and this is part of the development of Family First. So would you consider a special financial gift? It's our 20th anniversary, and if you feel we've spoken on your behalf and you like the youth programs that are coming through, Counterculture, Built on Truth, and all the other stuff that we're commenting on, then please join Samuel and me and the social conservative movement that we're building in New Zealand. Go to familyfirst.org.nz/donations to invest and help Samuel and me promote strong families, marriages, religious freedom and the value of life. familyfirst.org.nz/donations. Thank you for your support. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Solid Ground with me, Simon O'Connor, here on one of the many Family First productions. Lovely to have you all along. To our regulars, who I'll be saying hello to in a moment, welcome back. And to new viewers, look, welcome to Solid Ground. It's where I talk the topics of the day, both here in New Zealand and overseas, items in the news that have caught my eye. And I suppose I look at them, what I think is from a solid ground of good politics and faith and good conservative values, unapologetically, as we discuss again the political, the social, the ethical, the cultural, the moral issues of the day, and there are no shortage. As I say, it is a live show, and we are streaming across a variety of platforms. But if you want to have your comments or your questions come live to me here in the studio, go to Family First YouTube channel or its Facebook page, and through those two vectors, your comments come directly to me here in the studio. And it's a bit of a tradition at the start of people often just saying hello to me, letting me know where they are in the country or in the world, and what the weather's like, because we still have a British tradition here in New Zealand, which is we talk about the weather a lot. But as I say, if you're on other channels, be very, very welcome. I just have to see your comments after the show. So again, good morning to everyone. I see Harrison is once again the first online, and thank you for last night. Some will know I was hosting Straight Talk last night. Bob had an important family event to attend, which he did, which is excellent. I'm just doing a little adjustment. Here we go. I whacked the laptop as I was talking to you, so everything's been skew whiff. So now I was hosting Straight Talk. That's our panel last night. We had Tanya Unkovic, Susie Miller, Peter Williams and Peter Mortlock. So it was a great panel, lovely to host it, and thanks to all of you who was watching. So we've got Muddy Waters down there in the South Island. Darren, lovely to have you on. Nigel, thank you as well. I enjoyed it actually. You can't replace Bob, but I must say I thoroughly enjoyed being on. Jackie, lovely to have you along. Not just a good morning from Peter, but a jolly good morning. I have to say it is. It's gorgeous here in Auckland. So those who are wondering, I'm based in Auckland in New Zealand, and it's just lovely. Mike, lovely to have you along as well. Rosie, always lovely to have you, as well as Fourth Adam. Good morning, Lynette. Oh, hello. Oops, my things are jumping around here, Bernice. Oh, that is very kind of you. So very, very, very generous comments from people last night, including to hear from Samuel. Yeah, as I was saying, I quite enjoyed it. I don't have the same control as I do at the moment. It sounds very dominating, doesn't it? So at the moment, I'm controlling all and everything. So what videos are shown, what images, obviously, as you guys are commenting, I'm able to put those on screen. Last night's more of a hybrid. I'm actually calling in to the studio, and one of our wonderful team, Gordon, is producing. He does an amazing job, but it's quite a change for me, and as you would see too, last night, if you were watching, I'm busily trying to look at my iPad and my iPhone to see what people were saying. But good morning, lovely to have you along. Peter is saying that Iran has struck a warship. Well, Iran has said they are. I believe the Americans are claiming they've sunk 7 of Iranians' fast boats. The Iranians claim a whole lot of things, Peter. I wouldn't believe anything, basically, from them. Would be my Christian issue. Yes, we do discuss Christian issues as well. In fact, I've got a couple of those. Fourth Adam has rightly corrected my list from the cultural, political, and social. Another jolly good morning from Foo Dogs Trucking. Morena, from Lynn there. I hope you are well, or... yeah, I hope you're well, which is excellent. And look, lots and lots. Oh, we've got Mike telling me that it's Fluffy Ducks down in Mount Maunganui. Pleased to know, one of my happy places. We've got Robin there. Lovely to have you along. Awake, not woke. God, I'm getting tongue-tied. Terrible. And Catherine, look, I better stop there or I will spend all morning saying good morning to everybody. I thought I'd just start with what I think is some good news, because I don't know about yourselves. When you pick up the morning papers, or perhaps pick up your phone and read them, rather than actual physical papers, we should do a poll about that at some point of who actually reads a physical copy of the paper anymore. No judgment in that. Anyway, I thought this was good news. So Hawke's Bay is announced it's going to have a new hospice. Now, obviously, it's not built yet, but I just think this is something really positive. You'll know my view of hospice and palliative care. I think that's a really good thing, which is good. Peter's telling me, as I'm getting distracted again, the US has confirmed that one of their ships has been hit. Well, that's good to know, actually. I'll have to check that out as I was coming online. This is Iran, so the Iranians have started firing missiles back at the United Arab Emirates, just trying to escalate things in the region. The Americans now are basically putting forced convoys through the Strait of Hormuz, which is probably what is happening at the moment. So I'll have to check that out afterwards. As I say, just before I came on. Okay. So Anna is telling me that CENTCOM, so that's the Americans, are saying they've not been struck so far. So I think actually probably that's the encouragement. The wrong button. That's probably the encouragement to people, particularly around what's happening in the Middle East, is to check, double check, and triple check the facts, because there's going to be accusations and counter accusations. So be careful of what you read out there. Stick to solid ground. As I say, good news coming out of Hawke's Bay. The more hospices, the better. We know that we get great hospice service by and large in the cities. As you go out into the provinces and certainly into the regions, it gets a lot more difficult. This is coming out of America, and actually things have changed in the last half an hour. But I wanted to draw your attention to two things. So first and foremost, a federal court, not the Supreme Court, a federal court ruled a few days ago that abortion pills can't just be sent in the post on request. A person needs to talk to a doctor. Literally as I was coming to air, the Supreme Court has put a hold on that judgment. In other words, the Supreme Court is going to look at it more closely. So what I initially thought was a good news story, that actually abortion pills aren't just going to be thrown through the mail without any supervision, that's been put on hold. I think really the other thing I wanted to draw your attention to, and look, people know my very strong pro-life stance. I'm not a great fan of abortion pills. They kill unborn children, and often in quite a awful way, to put it subtly. But I think it's striking in this culture of death, the obsession with the abortion pill. It is one of the very few drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, that you can literally just call up on a phone and get sent to you. I mean, you know yourselves, if you go and visit your GP, the hoops you have to jump through usually talking to them face to face or talking to the surgery nurse over the phone to get access to any drugs. But somehow when it comes to abortion pills, all the usual medical practices go flying out the door. So if you're someone here who's got a different view around abortion, happy to debate you another time, but just take a step back from that position and go, why is it? Why is it in America, but the push is the same here in New Zealand, why is it of all the drugs that you have to jump through hoops, from aspirin to gabapentin, you have to jump through hoops, even go down to the pharmacy, ask for some Codral these days, you have to sign forms. But when it comes to, actually that's not quite correct, you have to give over all your details. But the abortion pill, you just call for it, get it, don't have to see a doctor, don't have to see a nurse. As I say, I think it's part of a culture of death. The other thing, this is a report that came out of the BBC. When I first saw the article, the title was very different. The title was really just saying what had happened. What is interesting is how the BBC has then changed the title to frame it the way that you now can read it, to try and basically slant it towards the pro-abortion side. I just thought it was striking to say, I'm sorry I didn't clip the article at the very start, which basically just highlighted the fact that the state of Louisiana had won the case to restrict abortion pills. So it was framed, I'd say, more moderately or neutrally, but the BBC couldn't stand that and had to change it to not an aggressively pro-abortion, but certainly a pro-abortion narrative, as if somehow something grave has happened here. As I say, it has changed. The Supreme Court has put a hold on literally in the last half hour. So there's that. This is another story which caught my eye. This is from New Zealand. This is Deborah Chambers. She's a KC, a King's Counsel. She recently wrote an opinion piece into the Herald around puberty blockers, and shock, horror, I almost fell off my chair, not because of Deborah per se, but the Herald would even run it. She takes apart those groups like PATHA and others who are pushing for the chemicalization of children through puberty blockers. Deborah is a smart cookie. And as I say, there's at least two themes to what she's saying. The first is she just goes through what's happening overseas in the various evidence briefs, obviously Hilary Cass and elsewhere, noting actually that people do not know how effective or ineffective these drugs are. In fact, she points out that there's a lot of evidence that this is doing harm to children. She also notes really importantly, and we here at Family First have talked about this a lot, puberty blockers is not just some sort of free choice like a bus that you can hop on and off. The majority of young people who get put on these go on to cross-sex hormones and on to mutilating treatments. So it's a conveyor belt. And look, Deborah just spells all that out pretty quickly, pretty suddenly, which is brilliant. And notes as well, and Simply Green's actually just touched on it, and we've talked about it here at Family First as well. The Finnish studies have shown, again, Deborah did not talk about this per se, but actually use of puberty blockers doesn't actually, or cross-sex hormones, or any treatments as they want to call it, for gender dysphoria, doesn't lead to any fewer suicides. In fact, the evidence is there are more. It leads to worse mental health outcomes. And that's demonstrable through the Finnish study, because the Finns keep very, very accurate records over a long period of time. The other thing that the Finnish study noted is that by and large, most people with gender dysphoria have a host of other mental health issues. And I think, and I read so many articles, I think Deborah even references that actually the mental health of young people needs to be addressed first. But the second element I thought was really striking in her op-ed is the overreach of the judiciary. So whether or not, there might be some here going, no, I think puberty blockers is fine for kids. Again, I suggest they're not. I think they're actually very dangerous and the wrong thing to do for young people. But Deborah is saying actually it is within the government's right to pass regulations, as they're trying to do, in this case to say, look, there should be no prescribing of puberty blockers to young people under 18. And Deborah is saying that's the right position for the government to take, or rather it's the government's right to make that decision. I better get that accurate. Whether it's the right decision or wrong decision, you can debate it, but she's saying it's perfectly legal, perfectly appropriate for the government to do so. and then calls out the judiciary that once again is stepping into the political realm. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think she's got a really important point. I'm genuinely concerned by the nature of our judiciary at the moment, which is becoming more and more politicised. You've heard us talk about it before, where the judiciary is stepping in and beginning to do the work of Parliament, and that is not appropriate. So whether it's around puberty blockers, again, you might have a different view than mine, but it is perfectly legitimate for a government to pass regulations of this nature and not have an activist court overturn it. It's the same around the seabed and foreshore issues, and again, there'll be a whole host of different views on this here in New Zealand, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, I'm not even wanting to weigh into the particulars of it. But the courts, and I can say this as a former member of Parliament, the courts have stepped in and interpreted the law in a way that the Parliament clearly never intended. Again, it's the sign of an activist court. And the fact too that Family First was deregistered, granted it's given us more freedom to speak our minds, but deregistered as a charity because again an activist court decided it was the arbiter of the morals of society, not civil groups like Family First or even the Parliament. So there is a worrying trend, I would suggest, developing in our courts. It's not completely stuffed or anything like that. I don't want to over-egg it, but it is a concern. And I think it's really good that a KC of her level, Deborah, has called out what the court is doing. And Simply Green's asking too, where does all the money come from to fight? A lot of it's actually done pro bono, particularly when it's come to abortion, euthanasia, puberty blockers. A lot of these, I don't know, woke, is that the right quick term to use? Certainly the very progressive agendas. A lot of the big law firms are captured. And it's an ecosystem now, I would suggest, that these firms get rewarded in the media and elsewhere by the activists. And so I suppose the encouragement, though, is to good Christian lawyers or others to actually step up and help the groups that are fighting against these causes, and particularly when it comes to the likes of gender dysphoria and how the trans activists are going about it. I mean, they're harming children. It's a form of child abuse. So we need good people to step up and rightly use the laws we have to protect kids. Hey, in something else, and look, I ummed and ahed about whether to put this up because I don't want to get into UK politics or Nigel Farage, but I just thought there was an element of this which I thought was quite funny. I hope you can read it. I mean, look, as you know, there's big debates in the UK around immigration, all of that. I'm not wanting to get into that per se. I just thought it was a good and funny political stunt. We've sort of referenced it occasionally here in New Zealand of our own Green Party or those on the far left who often are jumping up and down about their social justice causes to go, well, that's fine. Yeah, you can pay the extra taxes if you want. If you want more refugees, that's fine. You can have them. So I just thought Farage's comment here, classic him, quite funny. I heard him speak actually last year in London. He is quite amusing. He knows how to push the barrow. But I just thought this was funny. So again, I hope you can read it. But yes, you get what you vote for, which, yeah, I just thought it was funny. And then I thought... Actually, I'm going to take a cup of coffee before I lose my voice. From talking last night on Straight Talk to now, I've lost it. The next is just a short video, which I picked up from Stuff. It's actually to do with the Auckland Harbour Bridge, and it's about it swaying. And you go, why is that here? Just remember of the various groups which have been allowed to march across the bridge and those that have not. And this particular article was situated, I think it was Brian Tamaki's group that wanted to cross the bridge. I think Destiny Church was wanting to cross the bridge, and they were told no. But earlier protests, such as the hikoi around the Treaty Principles Bill and the pro-Hamas crowd, granted they were stopped in the end because of terrible weather, but they were given permission. But anyway, here's a video which in itself, is quite remarkable of the Auckland Harbour Bridge swaying as people walk across it.
Now, please. Just repeating. Now, please, if you can. Bridge Inspector Speed 3, the bridge is about to collide. Over.
I'm no engineer, but I find these things fascinating. I didn't realise it moved that much. And look, that's genuine footage, I think, from the hikoi months and months ago. in fact, it must be over a year ago now, isn't it? Walking across the bridge. And actually, it was interesting, the engineers in the article are saying, look, it's the resonance, the fact that a whole lot of human beings walking at that pace actually causes a resonance on the bridge. In a different way, they argue, than if you have run across it for the likes of the Auckland Marathon or half marathon, as I'm sure other Aucklanders have done. But I just thought I'd highlight it again because there's so many double standards at play. And look, the police have said they won't let anyone else march across the bridge. I'd like to believe them, but I don't. Because what we've seen so far is if you are on leftist causes, or causes which are de rigueur, then you're allowed to go across. Think about the cycle protest where they stormed the bridge and so on. And look, personally, I don't think Brian Tamaki and his crowd needed to go across the bridge for their protest, but it's interesting that they're the ones who get stopped. I'm sure if March for Life, if we asked to go across the bridge, would not be allowed. So I just think it's, again, fascinating double standards. Harrison saying he doesn't want to walk across. I have to say, it is quite the walk. It's steeper than you think, says me. And if others of you have been across, you'll know what I mean. Fourth Adam says, don't hold your breath. No, I don't. I just don't believe them. I think the next progressive cause, it'll be whipped up into a frenzy. The media will be saying they need to go across, and there'll be some sort of excuse made. I thought I'd also just highlight this. I might actually go to a full picture. So this is New Zealand's marriage rate. So I'll go to a full screen so you don't have to look at my face, but you'll be able to see it better. I think it's just, exceptionally sad to see. Long and short, back in the 1960s, and actually it peaked in the 1970s, where 45.5 people in every 1,000 got married. So that's per 1,000 eligible people. 45.5 in 1,000 is now down to 7.6. So there's been a collapse. There's been a collapse in the number of marriages and civil unions in New Zealand, and the trend, as you can see, continues to go down. So I'll leave it there for a few moments. It's measured, as I say, it looks like every 3 years, based around December. So a huge decline in marriage. And I think, look, I'm not a demographer. People can debate me on this, and it's not the reason. There's a whole lot of causes why we see problems in society. But when I reflect on the fact that actually we have so much more, well, by its nature now, fatherlessness, we have children who are confused with anxiety issues, none of this is a surprise to me. Look, as I say, I'm not a demographer. It's not the sole reason. But we see, high dependencies, drug and alcohol, abuse, domestic abuse, violence in language, violence in society, in general, said wayward, lost youth themselves with resilience issues. If you've been listening to some of our podcasts recently, I was with Erica Commissar, for example, a clinical social worker, a licensed clinical social worker out of New York, international speaker into this space. The need for a child to have a mum and dad in those early years. And so when you don't have married families, you don't have the stability. I'd go even as far to say if you don't have a stable civil union. So this, I'm not even sure what the right word is, but let's just say that the lack of marriage, the lack of commitment, I think, it's just an opinion, is flowing through into how society is operating. And I don't think we should be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised at a lot of the negative trends that we are seeing. And again, to stress to you, it's not to say that if everyone got married tomorrow, it would all be tickety-boo. It's not as simple as that. But when you actually break down the most simple, basic, fundamental unit, what Edmund Burke called the little platoon, when you break down the family, and that starts with marriage, I think you do begin to see the social consequences that you do see in society here, including all the talk at the moment around social cohesion. If you can't even have the institution of marriage respected, how on earth do you think wider dynamics in society are going to be grounded? It's beyond me. I think, not sure, I'm looking at a whole lot of comments coming through here, and I'm not exactly sure which ones they're related to. But ultimately, I think we've got a society which has gone against marriage. It's been promoted against. I mean, if you pick up the Herald or stuff at the moment, article after article about, basically it's what Katie Faust, in fact, I've done if you know Katie, I've done a podcast with her, She talks about divorce porn, of all things, which is, if you go onto Instagram and the media, there's all these women talking about living their best life after they left their husband, or just how bad their husband is because he doesn't take the garbage out or do the laundry, promoting the idea that basically ditch your husband. You've got some of the more toxic element of what they call the manosphere too, where they just say, oh, you don't need women. These are all toxic messages which have been put into our society against marriage. I mean, just last week, another, and I have to stress that word, another article by the New Zealand Herald promoting open relationships. Again, all of this is destabilising, not just to obviously a marriage, but to the individuals. Because I don't know about you, and I've dealt with a lot of people in my life through the different things I've done, political and when I trained as a priest, they're not happier. You might have a short shot of dopamine, but you're not happy in the long run. And, God forbid, and I certainly see it now with the older generation, as they divorce later in life, splitting their assets, you now have a whole pile of people impoverished because of their decision. So it's not a good thing, put really simply. But look, sad to see. Let's hope we can arrest the decline, because I certainly know we here at Family First would say that if you can actually stop this decline, if we can actually return respect to marriage, you're going to have happier people, a more stable society, I'd argue, and even a more economically prosperous society, and a better institution for children. It just makes sense. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Of all things, actually, I've got to jump onto a call at 8 o'clock to a university in Canada to talk about hate speech in New Zealand's law. They're doing a research into that space, and they reached out to me. So I'm going to do that soon, so I better get ready. But a reminder, as always, that you can check out our podcast. My latest here is with Jared Holland, an Australian, talking about men and boys and the real struggle they're facing and his solutions. It's really, really good. If you have young boys, in fact, if you just got men in your life, which we all will, I think this podcast is really worth listening to. Jared is very engaging. He spoke at a conference earlier this year that I attended, and just a fantastic summary of the challenges facing particularly young men, but as I say, also some solutions. So check that out. Check out my latest On Point as well on substack.com, talking about the Mikey Sherman situation. And that's my little AI-generated image there. AI has its place. Bob, of course, is also very busy on the likes of substack.com, so go and check that out. Be aware the latest counterculture is going to drop soon. It's a new topic. I don't have it to hand. This is last week's one, but counterculture is our new youth platform. Really, really good. I'm still on RCR doing my show there, so if you want a slightly different angle on issues, jump over to RCR. Check out things there. And know, of course, Bob is on every Monday, Wednesday and Friday morning. We are here every weekday between us. And as you also know, guys, you can always watch, read and listen. Sorry, my watch is vibrating. It's just telling me to stand up. So look, guys, always a pleasure to have you here on Solid Ground. Really enjoying having you part of the show. I will see you again on Thursday morning.